everyone, welcome aboard this special episode of Seize the Day, SMOU's video podcast. I'm Elyn, Manager of Growth and Partnerships at Bigyellowfish. So I've been working really closely with the seafarers, captains and maritime leaders, listening to what's really happening behind the safety briefings and daily routines. So in my work, we focus a lot on human element and well-being, not just as a concept, but the living and breathing part of how seafarers and crew function. So if there's one thing that I learned is that safety doesn't end with just hard hats and harnesses. It extends to whether people feel respected, seen, heard, and able to be themselves. So even in the quiet moments as well. Because harassment and the silence around it doesn't just impact the individuals, but it shapes the atmosphere on board. It affects trust, performance, and the emotional current of the crew. So today, as we mark the Day of the Seafarer 2025, we are bringing forward the theme My Harassment-Free Ship. And we are unpacking it through hot takes at sea. So we want bold statements, real responses, and unfiltered thoughts. So from those who live and lead at sea. Because a respectful ship isn't built by accident, it's shaped by what it allows, what we challenge, and how we choose to protect. So with me today, we have three incredible seafarers who've agreed to share their perspectives and their life stories. Let's get started and introduce ourselves.
3, 2, 1.
Talk to me.
An SMOU production. Seize the day.
Alright, hi, I'm Hani. I'm a fourth engineer and I've been sailing for about 7 years.
Hi, I'm Yin Jinghong. I'm a fourth engineer. I started sailing like 2019, so it's quite some time now.
Alright, my name is Koo Wei Loon. I'm a second officer sailing with a Singapore-based company. Started sailing since 2017 as a cadet with WMI TNTA 12.
They're really, really impressive because I really like that, today we have two ladies and one male. So I would like to start off with our first hot take where if we are laughing, when there's a situation that we are laughing at a sexist joke on board, it means that you're part of the harassment problem. So I want to know whether you agree or you disagree with that. Let's start with Wei Loon.
Sometimes it may seem unavoidable because it is a male-dominated industry, so we take it as though it's like nothing because all of us are male. But I think we have to be more mindful when there's a female on board. So I agree that you can be sort of a sexy if you laugh at the joke. Yeah, that's my take on it.
Okay. So have you ever experienced something like that? Do you laugh?
Well, we are working, so I have never said with any female before. So
okay.
So
okay.
I maybe subconsciously did it. I don't know.
Because I think this kind of things do happen even in daily life, right? I mean, I myself personally experienced it before. But maybe let's hear from Hani. Maybe Hani and Jinghong. Any of you probably. Have you ever experienced this before?
For me, to be honest, I just treat it as a normal joke. So
Do you laugh along?
I sort of laugh along, but it's not like I would join in the joke or anything. I would just sit there and I'll just listen and just right, okay. But for my ship, like my colleagues on board, they will always try to not do this kind of joke. So they know that there's a female on board, so they'll try to not do it. But they may sometimes, out of habit, just say it out again. But they were just like, alright, we finished this topic and then we just try to say something else instead. So they'll not say keep on saying all these kind of jokes all the way.
Would you speak up to tell them? Or do you have somebody on board that ship that actually speaks up to say hey, you cannot say that?
Actually, to be honest, for my colleagues, they do know that they shouldn't. So they will just try to stop.
Just stop.
Yeah.
Oh,
so there is no need for us to say, hey, that's very sexist, that kind of thing. So most of the time is they just refrain from doing it, fully refrain from doing it. So when they first know that there's a female coming on board, they will just try to stop all their nonsense, not nonsense, and then like slowly after you get well with them, and then they do know like to a certain extent of jokes you can accept, then they will try to just keep it within your comfort zone. They will not try to say too sexist or too racist kind of stuff.
That's nice to hear, because then you got the gentleman there. Yeah. Hani, what about your experience?
Answering to you, agree or disagree, I would agree that laughing at a sexist joke is actually quite a big problem. Because the harasser, whoever made that joke, will think that, oh, it's okay to make this joke. She's okay. She's laughing at it, you know? But during my cadet time, of course, I would to, laugh at it because we were like quite junior. We don't know what to do. So we would just laugh at it. But over time, after like 7 years, it's not funny anymore. It's like, just shut up. Like, I'm sorry. It's not funny anymore.
It's really raw, right? Because I think more importantly is that because when we are stuck in these kind of situations, right, there's only 3 ways we can work about things.
Yes.
Whether you kind of like say, hey, you shut up, or you just freeze, don't know what to do, or you just like want to blend in, right? Or if not, just completely stay silent. So, and also I think some of the times that I think I personally in the past also fell into it, which is I laugh along. So laughing along with it, I mean, do you think that this is something that, if you place yourself in a situation again, what will you do? What do you think that it is so-called the right thing to do?
Stand up. Even if it's not at
Even
me.
if you're the only female?
Even if I'm the only female, stand up. I think there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, for sure. But even if it's not at me, it's at somebody, we should stand up also. Because it's kind of weird as a bystander just watching them making fun of someone. For me, just stand up. There's nothing wrong with that.
Would you stand up if I put you in a situation where there is only one Hani and then the rest of you and your crew, which are boys, right, or men?
I believe as a male on board, it is probably one of our instinct to stand up for people, regardless whether it's a harassment or maybe just very simple thing like maybe different skin color, his accent is funny and this and that. People will think it's fine, and then because at home they think it's fine. When they come on board, it's fine either. So we sort of need to make people realize that whatever they are doing on board actually reflect quite poorly on them, and reflect what kind of like person they actually are being perceived by others. So when we let them realize what they are doing, probably they have some sort of more self-awareness. But I think as most guys that are still with there, we have this kind of like very
Is that code?
yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but it's a good code, right?
Yeah.
Because in that sense, then, I mean, to be very honest, most of the captains that I met, they're probably already on shore, but mostly quite gentlemanly. So maybe that's because like you have kind of a culture, which is good to hear, right? Yeah, but I mean, I feel like more importantly, because we speak a lot about well-being, right?
Yes.
I think silence, it could be very scary, right? And then it's more important that we have to know that there is this kind of inclusion.
Correct.
I think what you're shouting here is a lot of gender inclusion, even when it comes to race and everything else.
Yes.
So because we are trying to kind of shape a culture, right? So the second hot take, it actually brings us to the next stage, because now we're not talking about problem anymore, but the first type of solution, which is the reactive, right? How do we react to a harassment problem? So hot take number 2 says, transferring a harasser to another vessel just relocates the issue. So what do you think is the real solution if we don't do that?
Solution, because I think moving the problem to another vessel, another crew is not solving anything. It's just putting it in another group of people. But to me, real solution is formal warnings. Warning first. And if they don't, suspension, demotion. Repeated offences, maybe termination.
Have you ever, I mean, this is like out of the blue, but have you ever like experienced any of such problems around you before?
I mean, I have seen it happening on board the vessels a few times. So, I'm not the victim. Okay, I'm not the victim. So like first for my company, what we have a so-called unspoken policy that we will always pair 2 females on board at the same time. So you will never have an incident where there's only 1 female on board. I mean, they will try to do that, but for myself, I have spoke to the office before that there's no need for me to pair with another female because like I'm an engineer. So when they pair me with a female deck officers, the deck officers is basically on watch keeping for the whole day, and then I'm on day work for the whole day. I don't get to see her much. So for myself, I find it useless to pair me up with another female. But for cadets now in our company, it's a black and white rule that they have to be paired with a female officer. So when you have cadets coming on board, because cadets is brand new, first time facing these situations, and then there is cases of harassment on board before. So it happens like it could be the officer was getting very close with the cadet, and then he thought that the 2 of them were like close friends, close enough to have this kind of things happening, but the girl felt uncomfortable afterwards, so she spoke up, and then because everybody's on board, there's nothing much you can do. So what our captain did was the first reaction was to make sure that he is never allowed to be alone in the room with the cadet, and he was also given a stern warning straight away. So because initially was the officer's cabin was beside the cadet's cabin. So the cadet mentioned that she doesn't felt safe with him around. So the officer had to move his cabin straight away. And then in common place,
His cabin straight away, sorry.
because we had spare cabins around, so he had to change cabins.
Relocate him.
Relocate. Yeah, not say like physically move the cabin.
Imagine if they physically move the cabin.
But yeah, he had to change another cabin. So he had to change out. And then in like for meal times and everything, he cannot be alone in the room with the cadet.
Okay.
So like so sometimes we don't go for meals at the same time together. Like we have a fixed timing saying that 6 to 7 is dinner, but not always everybody comes down at 6 for dinner. So when sometimes it happens that the cadet was down at 6 for dinner and this officer was down and there's nobody else in the mess room, he had to call the mess man to come in to stand by the table to just witness and make sure that there's nothing else going in between the 2 of them. So this is like the actions that we had on board.
Okay.
And then after when they signed off, we had like a full investigations going on. So there was calls to everyone that was on board at the time and like, do you see anything happening? What do you think that there's something else going on between the 2 of them? Blah blah blah. And then after the investigation, the full outcome was the officer was fired.
Termination.
Yes. So for my company, we are quite strict with all these harassments usually.
That's really good. That's very nice to hear.
Yeah, so for both cases, the outcome was the officer was getting fired.
Now we know the consequences are really hard. But I mean, I feel more importantly it has to be kind of brutal also, right? Because otherwise...
Because a lot of times, if you just give a verbal warning, sometimes they do not take it too hard. They just treat it as, it's fine.
Just a warning.
Yeah, but if it's like a written warning, and that is when it becomes real. And for my company, especially because we always have a third-party hotline. So when you feel that you are getting bullied, harassed, or you feel uncomfortable on board, and you try to speak up to your senior management level, and you feel that it's very uncomfortable to speak to them, you can always speak to this third-party hotline. And this third-party hotline, they will raise the situation to the office. And then because it's raised directly to the office, usually there's always investigations going on, and then it becomes a big problem. But I mean, well, if you feel uncomfortable, that you have to solve the problem. So they always do all this.
Sorry, I do have a question though. Like, what is like the flow and procedures for these written warnings? Like, who are the people involved and who are notified in this written warning? Like, who knows that this person has been issued a warning?
The captain will be the one issuing it, and then it will be written in your. It will be in your so-called service letter, sea service testimonial. And then when the captain issues these official warnings, they have to inform the office as well.
I see. So in his so-called profile, they have a remark like this person has been served what kind of warning?
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yes, and because like you have your self-appraisal, your trip appraisal every trip. So there will be yourself, your evaluation, the manager or basically your direct senior management, and then there'll be a reviewer. The reviewer usually is the captain for the deck officers and the chief engineer for the engine department. So like wherever your evaluator can write about you, the reviewer has to write something as well. So he can agree or disagree with whatever appraisals that you have received, and he can put in his comments about you that he felt.
I feel that this is a very good approach, and it is very I think the transparency there is something that we probably have to so-called appreciate. Yeah, but I think most from my peers, some of them have this kind of review, but it is kept confidential.
Yeah, because for ours,
No idea
ours
what
is
managers
open to the office. Yeah, so every single trip, all of your appraisals is saved onto our this online portal, and then both the office is able to view it. You yourself is able to view it. Your next vessel's captain and chief engineers, they are able to view it as well. Yeah. So whenever they plan for a crew change, they will send your name to the captain on board. The captain as the captain on board, he has access to everyone's your evaluations. So he has the access to his current batch of people on board, and he's also able to view the people who are incoming.
I think this is really good because now the senior management team knows that we have this kind of crew coming on board. So it's to actually enable them to better manage the crew and make it more cohesive environments.
Yeah, because I think essentially what your company does is you wouldn't have this problem then, right? You know, relocating the harasser to another vessel.
Usually no.
You probably wouldn't have that problem because this person is like
It's very out.
yeah. But I mean, then again, also okay, I'm just thinking a little bit too far out. But then the harasser can just get employed by another company, and then the list goes on.
That is the only.
Yeah. But how about your company? Do you ever any harassment? I think harassment doesn't come between just male and female.
Yes. Nowadays harassment can be anything.
Yeah, it can be anything.
Yes.
So, is there any even in a whole like full male ship, for example?
Oh, sure. So
Harassment,
for me, I strongly believe.
Story.
For me, I strongly believe that the harasser, even if you put him on other ship, right? I honestly believe that you need an enabler. You need enablers. If you don't have enablers, I don't think he will continue his act. More or less, when you shift this person to another ship, if he has self-awareness, then he probably wouldn't repeat his offense anymore. If. So,
Okay.
all shipping companies, we give you the big ifs, the benefit of the doubts. We don't condemn you directly because after all, we need to think of a more humane side, like this person is providing for the family. So if you terminate the person just because of one folly mistake, maybe he thought it was okay, then I feel that it's a bit unfair. So as part of the management crew on board, you need to think beyond that. I know, I realize that we are talking about harassment. It's not a very light topic. We shouldn't take
It's
things for
difficult.
granted. It is. And we cannot fathom truly why this person is trying to pick on the person in the first place. Probably for him, it's like to vent out his frustrations or stress. You never know. But for us from outside, we feel when you directly jump onto the problem and we implement a solution without finding what is actually going on, I think it is quite dangerous as well. I feel that it's quite dangerous as well. Yeah, and investigation, perhaps we can talk more about the investigation, but then the thing is, it's going to take a long time and it's going to be consuming a lot of resources. So most probably that is the reason why people just implement the solution straight away. We have SOP, just follow it, case closed.
Yeah. Because what the worry is whether we're just being reactive, right?
Yes,
Just reacting to the problem right away. But I think maybe Hani, you could share your experience also. If there's any, when it comes to harassment, or how does your company actually intervene? Maybe, like you mentioned, aside from warning letters, what other solutions, or what do you probably can think aloud to say, what should companies really do to actually target this, react to this problem?
So for my company, we have complaint procedure. We have it in our cabin right there. If anything were to happen, it's right there. And that goes to the captains first. So like what you mentioned, it's quite confidential. We don't do it like her company did it. It's really straightforward. It's quite a strong message what they did. Ours is quite confidential. So this also will take some time with the investigation and all that. So for me, it's a bit hassle to do so for me. So sometimes I'm not really comfortable to do that because I'm so sometimes sometimes we don't want to, because we're so busy with work. You see, we're so tired, and coming back to dealing with this is just too much. So some people are not comfortable to do these complaint procedures. Yeah, so they're like,
Because it's not that
easy because you have to go through and they're gonna ask you questions. So you're taking that time to do all that when you just want to just end your day and just relax. Some people, that's what I know.
Well, I think maybe maybe the perpetrator will see this as an encouragement. It's like, I do this on this vessel, the next vessel I do again.
Because I think it's also like, okay, everybody say that it's confidential. Nobody will everybody say that, oh, we will not tell anybody else what's happening. But the ship is only so small. You are sailing with this set of people for at least 6 months. Even if you say that it's confidential, everybody on board knows what's happening. Yeah. so
Like the next day.
no matter you try to say that, oh, I want to step up and I want to make a complaint, or let's say like my company, we try to make a call to this third party company. Yes, it's confidential. Yes, it's third party company. You don't know who's on board. It's confidential, but they will register your names. And then when they do the investigations, they will not exactly tell you what happened, but they will send you an email to say, hi, your name was being mentioned as a witness for this case regarding the victim's name. And then they will arrange for a call review, because all this is done by a third party. When they arrange a call review, they will have to mention the names of the victim and the names of the harasser. And then because your name is already exposed as a witness, and then after that, it's like you just tell whatever that you know regarding what happened. And then they will continue on with the investigation of everything else. And then the solution is the outcome. But it's like basically, all this investigation happens when you sign off. So on board the ship, they'll keep it quiet. So yes, it's confidential. You doesn't know that what's happening. Nobody knows about it. There's a report going on. But once you sign off the vessel, and when all these calls starts coming in, then for sure you already know this person has already phoned up to say about this lah. And then because it's a small not a small company, it's a small group of people. Basically, when you sign off, everybody will message each other to stay in contact, and then we'll be like, hey, I received this email. You got receive or not? You got receive or not?
We have a term for this. It's called the galley news. Yes, the galley news. So what is the galley? The galley is actually like a kitchen of the ship. Then all kind of person who are attracted to one thing, food. Then everyone will come together. Then gossip. Galley news.
So everything, no matter what you say, yes, it's confidential. But what is confidential?
I think it's humans, right? It's like we thrive on gossip.
Oh, spicy. But actually, I was actually quite surprised that you guys are using names, because we are using employee numbers.
Ah,
We use employee numbers.
No, because the thing is, if an investigator is gonna ask questions, and for example, I call you up and I say, were you on board this vessel? Yes, I was on board. Were you on board during this period? Yes, I was on board. Were you on board sailing with number 23456? You will know who is this person? Employee numbers is only something that I myself will remember my own number. I will not remember who else. I won't remember you as your employee number.
We actually use this employee number to deal with cases, to so-called retain our anonymity, so-called reports. And it is only up to a certain evidence that has been submitted and vice versa, right? Then we will call the person in. And then the best part is, when we call the person in, right, we identify them by their so-called seaman discharge book number. They don't use name at all. Yeah, even if we cancel, if the person is close to another person and know his seaman discharge book number, then he'll know who the person is. Because in our company statement, right, because we have a case, I think, a few of the crew were being laid off, and it was then they put the seaman discharge book number only. This and this person has been, you know.
You announce. Ours we don't announce.
But if it's big enough, not announced, but it's like more of like use it as a case study. Like maybe this happened this year in 2020, maybe 2025 we use that case for case study.
Too late.
We don't do case study.
Too late, man. 1 year.
My company is like, if we have harassment happening on board, then we'll just have a big, like a circular going on to say that there's a few harassment cases recently. Please be mindful that we have zero tolerance for harassment, blah blah blah. But we will not mention which name, which ship, what exactly happened. We just say that there's like a few cases happening on board, and please keep in mind, blah 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 blah. But like those who were on board when the cases happened, of course you know what was going on lah. Then when you go to our next vessel and then with each other like, hey, you know this guy or not? Yeah, I know this guy. then after it's like, hey, I heard that he cannot sack. Then yeah, I was there. I was there. Then they all like, oh, you were there. Then okay, what happened? Then you.
But I mean, it's really nice to hear also, because it's then those people who, maybe like you call it the enablers of the harassment or whoever who are the potential predators per se, they will know what can happen to them, right? And then more importantly, it's about how people will judge you after that. It's just like, hey, this person, maybe you go to the toilet, you see his name, the employee ID also.
And actually, when Jinghong mentioned about the so-called circular, right? I was first hand. I was on, because all of us are male. Then when the captain was like reading this through our safety meeting, some people just actually read through the circular like, what the heck. So the the reaction was, what the heck, this won't happen lah. What is this? So I'm like thinking,
This a bit like sounds a bit like complacency.
It's very common. Like, so for my company is we always have this thing called the lesson learned, which is like case study. But we do it for every like accident happening on board. So like if you get finger cut or there's some spillage happening on board, everything, then after all this investigation, we'll post it within the company as a lesson learned, and then there will be like reports of saying like, okay, this vessel at this timing and this location, blah blah blah, what happened. Then we will not say names of who caused the issue or who was the victim or the injured person. We just put there IP, injured person, was working in the engine room, blah blah blah, and then he caught his finger, blah 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 blah. Then as people like as an engineer who's gonna read this, and then you are like reading and you're like, hey, why you so stupid? Why you put your finger there? It's these kind of things lah. Like you look at all these lesson learned, all this case study, then you always start to think that, hey, why can such things happen?
So I think that brings us to the next part, which is whether we actually get the guidance, or you actually get the guidance on as to how do we actually tackle this problem. Or like you mentioned, right, harassment, it has to be taken more seriously. It's really tough. I think I also fully agree that it's really something that is so hard to talk about, right? It's a soft side of things, like you mentioned about injuries. So when injuries, you have a certain standard of operations, how you do it, this and that, circulars to talk about injuries and accidents. But when it comes to softer things like harassment and bullying, then what preventative measures can we, implement to even things out? So because it brings us to the next hot take, because it's talking about harassment training, right? And it says if you think harassment training is pointless, you've probably never been the target. So I assume all of you have attended harassment training, right? Tell me, because I'm not a seafarer. Tell me how. Maybe I'm just assuming maybe different organizations have different ways of delivering the training. So probably whoever comes first, share with me how these trainings have been delivered, and then do you think it was helpful?